Welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for staying with us on Plain Speak. You're watching with me, Shivani Gupta. We are bringing you this live broadcast from CNN News 18 and Federal Bank Primetime Studio. After nearly 2 months in jail, the Supreme Court today finally gave Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal interim bail till June 1 for campaigning in the ongoing Lok Sabha elections. During the hearing on May 3, the bench had dropped a hint regarding this. On subsequent dates, Solicitor General Tushar Mehta and Additional Solicitor General S.V. Raju vehemently opposed the interim bail, arguing that ED had evidence against Kejriwal and election campaigning ought not to be a criteria. The bench, however, observed that it was dealing with the case of an elected CM, not a habitual offender, and the general elections take place once every 5 years. Now, final arguments on Arvind Kejriwal's petition challenging his arrest in the first place will continue. As Arvind Kejriwal is all set to walk out, 18 out of the 22 Lok Sabha seats AAP is contesting are yet to poll. As AAP leaders and supporters rejoiced, BJP reminded them that their CM would have to surrender again. AAP's allies in the India bloc are hailing it as a victory of democracy and a slap on the face of BJP's dictatorial rule. The 21-day breather for Arvind Kejriwal for election campaigning alone, will it boost the INDIA's prospects in the ongoing polls? That's the big question we'll take to our guests in just a bit. First up, the Supreme Court granting interim bail to Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal. But remember, he's been asked to surrender again on June 2. So that means just a day after the final phase of elections, Arvind Kejriwal is expected to be back in jail. Now let's take a look at the Supreme Court's major statements while granting this relief. Remember, while considering the bail, the Supreme Court had said that these are extraordinary times in the sense that elections are happening and Arvind Kejriwal is not a habitual offender. It also added today that 21 days here and there should not make a big difference. Why? Given that Arvind Kejriwal was out there for 1.5 years, he could have been arrested earlier but wasn't, so no heavens are falling now either. The ED, remember, had opposed Arvind Kejriwal's bail through the last couple of days, saying that relief would incentivize every criminal to become a politician. That releasing Mr. Kejriwal to canvass would set a wrong precedent. And remember, it had also gone on to contend in front of the court that right to campaign is neither fundamental nor legal nor constitutional. So on what basis should it be considered? Remember, there's been massive politics being played on the arrest of Arvind Kejriwal since day one. Aam Aadmi Party had termed this as a ploy by the BJP to discredit the party before elections, while the BJP had been countering it by saying that Arvind Kejriwal and the Aam Aadmi Party itself are to be blamed for the orchestration of the timing of the arrest because they refused to attend 9 summons that were previously issued to the Delhi Chief Minister. The big question we ask is simply this. This interim relief has been granted. It certainly has come because of the timing of the general elections as the court itself contended. Will it end up boosting the AAP and the allies' prospects?
ED even today, as the oral order was being pronounced, really tried and argued that there should be restrictions imposed on him so that he cannot be saying anything about this case.
This is the victory of truth. This is the victory of the Indian Constitution. This is the victory of democracy.
अन्याय, अत्याचार और तानाशाही है देश के प्रधानमंत्री और भारतीय जनता पार्टी की, उसका अंत होगा।
एक तारीख के बाद उनको दोबारा जेल जाना होगा।
तो जेल में जो अभियुक्त है वो सरकार कैसे चला सकता है, ये एक बड़ा प्रश्न है।
We also hope that the Prime Minister gets enough time after 4th of June to introspect sitting in Sabarmati Ashram and the kind of politics he has indulged into.
सुप्रीम कोर्ट का धन्यवाद करता हूं और अब हम लोगों को ज्यादा ताकत मिल जाएगी।
और आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट का ये फैसला का ईडी और सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट के मुंह पर ऐसे थप्पड़ लगा
up, Vikas Singh, former ASG and senior advocate, is joining us live here on CNN News 18. Vikas Singh, I do appreciate your time. As a former ASG, would you see this as a setback for the agency's case if an interim bail was to be granted, even if the court is saying this is because of special circumstances, this is not on the merit of the case per se, but certainly a setback for the agency?
So, according to me, this is not only a setback, but if you look at the conduct of the agency, it puts them under a huge cloud, because this is a case of an approver who has been forced to donate money to the BJP, and more than 50 crores he has donated as electoral bonds to the BJP. Now, if a person of this kind of credibility is being made as an approver, because even an approver, although his evidence is admissible, it's an admissible evidence under section 50 of the PMLA, but it's a very weak evidence and it has to be corroborated. Now, this approver is somebody who's, the moment he gets released, he pays to the electoral bond, which goes directly to the BJP. His company pays another 50 crore, which goes directly to the BJP, and he becomes an approver. Now, what is the credibility of such an approver? Because if the approver status as it is something which is to be corroborated by other material, and if his credibility as it is in huge doubt, and I'm sure BJP would definitely be knowing the approver status and the payment of the electoral bond.
No, Vikas Singh, that's fine. The approver thing is, being argued separately as far as the case is concerned. But the bail, the interim relief has been granted by the Supreme Court, particularly to look at election campaigning by Arvind Kejriwal. Now, question will arise in some people's mind, even as the ED also contended this in its arguments. Is it fair to give bail to someone because they are a chief minister and they have campaigning to do? Because in similar previous cases like Jagan Mohan Reddy's case or other politicians like Azam Khan, courts have not given relief for campaigning.
So, the difference here is that the Supreme Court asked a very pointed question, that why did you wait for 9 summons to be dishonored before arresting? Why did you, take it to the electoral date and then arrest him? If he had disobeyed your first summon or your second summon, you could have taken him in custody straight away then. So, normally do you give this kind of indulgence to somebody by, keep issuing him summons and somebody who's defying your summons and not obeying your summons? So, why did you keep giving summons and extending the date and coming and finally arresting him when the elections were announced? So, that's something which the agency could not explain. And I don't see that anybody should get a special status as far as the law is concerned. But at the same time, you also to appreciate that the law of the land is that everybody is presumed to be innocent unless proved guilty. And this is a case of a conviction bail. This is a case of a trial bail. Now, in a trial bail, if you don't have evidence which can be said to be credible, then to arrest somebody in the first place, places the whole conduct of the agency in a big doubt. So, according to me, it's a huge setback to the agency. It shows that the agency is, acting at the political dictates, which is something which is very unfortunate, because ultimately the agency is supposed to be completely divorced of the politics in the country. And they have, conducted themselves in a manner which shows that they are also, sort of getting involved in the local politics of the parliamentary election and ensuring that he doesn't remain out at the time of the electioneering. So, Supreme Court's observation in this light is very, very significant, that they release him on interim bail, let him canvass for the rest of the elections. And agency has obviously not been able to show sufficient credibility into the evidence that they had, number one, and number two, even if there was sufficient credibility, bail, according to me, I mean, this is my larger picture, I don't say it is only for Kejriwal, it should be for everybody, that bail should only be not granted if you feel that the person is a, like for instance, somebody, a child molester whom you expect will again go and molest a child. Okay. Or a kasab who has taken a vow to. So those are the kind of cases where bail should be denied. Bail should normally be the rule, because ultimately sending somebody to jail is actually convicting him at the trial stage, because that time that he spends in jail cannot be undone.
Okay.
And this again, I'm not saying for Kejriwal. This is my general view. I say this for every offence. Unless if you feel that he's a threat to the society, or here he's a chief minister, he's working as a chief minister. Otherwise, there is nothing wrong as far as his working as a chief minister is concerned.
Okay.
If you let him function as a chief minister, and obviously he is not.
No,
going
the
to
court
do an
has made
excise
it very
policy
clear.
again
No, the
in
court
this
has made it
time.
very clear that he cannot function as a chief minister while he's out on interim bail.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. That's the court's view, but I don't agree with that. I don't think these kind of, because Supreme Court, other benches of the Supreme Court categorically take a stand that no, this kind of condition cannot be imposed. But unfortunately, we don't have one Supreme Court today. Every bench is a separate Supreme Court. So that view they are entitled to take. If they have taken that view, that is their
All
view.
right.
I can't question that. But according to me, this is a very big setback for the agency.
All right. I won't delve
Thank
into
you.
some of the other statements you've made, Vikas Singh, but certainly you have very strong views on what has transpired as far as this case is concerned. I do thank you for joining us. We'll have to wait and see exactly how this impacts as far as the rest of the merits of the case itself is concerned. And for that, for the political impact of this entire development as well, let's go across to the rest of our guests joining us. All right, Charu Pragya from the BJP, AashutoshSrivastava is a lawyer joining us, Javed Ansari, senior journalist, and Siddharth Sharma, spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party, also with us. Siddharth, I want to understand from you first, a big day for you, because even if it's interim, it is election campaigning, and Arvind Kejriwal is going to be your star campaigner, possibly for the entire India bloc. How do you see this strengthening you in your messaging to the public now for the next 21 days?
Yeah, right at the outset, today is Akshaya Tritiya. So, best wishes to all your viewers. In Sanatan Dharma scriptures, according to Sanatan Dharma scriptures, Akshaya Tritiya and Vijayadashmi are 2 days which are called the most auspicious. Hindi में बोलें तो उसमें मुहूर्त देखने की जरूरत नहीं होती है, पूरा दिन शुभ ही होता है. So essentially what has happened is that the entire BJP ecosystem would be very worried today, because everyone knows that Dhoni-like people need only a few balls to change the match. They don't need to play all the 20 overs, right? Supreme Court, what essentially it has done today is that defined power to the Modi Sarkar. That power isn't a weapon to be wielded on a few enemies. Power is a vehicle to serve all the people. Delhi Chief Minister Kejriwal today is as free to campaign in these elections as the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Modi, is. The only difference that the people will see in the coming days will be the vocabulary. Kejriwal will be proudly presenting the Delhi and Punjab model as a blueprint for progressive people, while Mr. Modi ji will keep on whining about the progress of buffaloes. That's Article 21 of the Constitution for you, which the BJP wants to change by saying that it needs 400 seats. Why does it need 400 seats? Because it wants to abolish the reservations of Dalits, OBCs, and the tribals of India.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Let me take opening arguments from everybody. Charu Pragya, the BJP ecosystem to be worried because you tried to keep Arvind Kejriwal behind bars, particularly for elections and during campaigning. Look, he's going to be out there for 3 weeks now.
Shivani, a very good evening to you. I would congratulate Siddharth, except that his chief minister is not off the hook. He's still an accused and he still needs to be behind bars again in exactly 21 days. Now, I don't know what is there to celebrate for 21 days.
One by one.
Did I even interrupt you?
One by one. Siddharth, one by one. Let's focus on the issue. We've got limited time. Yes, Charu.
No, Shivani, I'll let him have his say. But he had to rain on my parade because he's bothered by what I'm saying. I still don't want to congratulate you, Siddharth, no matter what you say. So, if everything was perfect in your paradise, your chief minister would not be asked to go back to jail 21 days later. And that is something that all of us need to remember. Bail does not mean he's off the hook. Bail does not mean he's innocent. Bail does not mean he's no longer an accused. That's the first thing. The second thing is BJP didn't put him in jail and BJP didn't give him bail. So you might be thinking that we are celebrating or feeling sad in our camp. Either ways, I don't think that's what we are concerned with. We have a lot to do on the ground. We have elections happening and our noses are buried deep in the work that we are doing for the people of this country. So arrest karne wali bhi ED thi aur bail dene wala court hai. I don't know why you need to bring in BJP and Modi ji. That's the second thing. The third important thing I want to tell you here, Shivani, is that even though the India Alliance has been going out on a limb, even talking about the Supreme Court in in very unfavorable terms, saying that what was the need to keep their leaders behind bars, some of them for nearly a year. K. Kavita is still behind bars. Arvind Kejriwal has now been given bail, and it's for a very momentary, short period of time. At least now they'll stop abusing the judicial system of this country. And I hope they uphold this even tomorrow if there is a next order.
I just spoke to the former ASG Vikas Singh, very senior lawyer, and he said, different benches are different Supreme Court. So I'm not sure if that entire debate about Supreme Court and how judgments are coming, who's saying what, is going to end anytime soon. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And of course, we should be free to voice our opinions. But Javed Ansari, I'm coming to you. How do you see this benefiting the India bloc? Is it going to make that big a change to their fortunes? The fact that Arvind Kejriwal is now free to campaign, not absolved, by the way, of the charges. Troubles could only increase for him because supplementary charge sheet has been filed. We'll get more details as to what culpability of Arvind Kejriwal privately plus of the Aam Aadmi Party would be adjudicated or at least filed in the supplementary charge sheet. But do you see this as some sort of a boon for the India Alliance or just a minor fillip?
I think this will definitely come as a boon for the Aam Aadmi Party in particular and the India Alliance in general. The Aam Aadmi Party will make this politically for whatever it's worth, because if the past is anything to go by, public tends to sympathize with those who are seen as being victimized by the state. The Aam Aadmi Party has tried very hard to portray, the India bloc in fact has tried very hard to portray Mr. Kejriwal as one of those who's been victimized by the government of India. The Aam Aadmi Party, particularly in Delhi, has the organizational bandwidth to take this to the people. Across the country, I don't know, much will depend on how the other India Alliance, but this would certainly work to their advantage. I don't see any disadvantage accruing to them on account of his release. As far as the legalities are concerned, I leave it to the lawyers and the others who have spoken. That's not my core expertise. But politically, I do believe that this will provide a fillip. This will come as a big shot in the arm for the Aam Aadmi Party and for the India Alliance.
Yeah, we do have Ashutosh joining us on the panel as a lawyer. Ashutosh, how does the agency recover from something like this? Because while I do understand this is not a verdict, bail has been granted to some other accused in this case as well. First of all, can I just say, after a climate that was created that, PMLA is so bad that you cannot get bail, and Aam Aadmi Party itself contended the reason why our leaders are not getting bail is because of the PMLA provisions. We've got two accused in this case from the Aam Aadmi Party actually get bail. So, no, bail is not something that is extremely impossible to get. The courts are being very favorable to look at the conditions under which arrests have been made or the case against the individual is concerned. But leave that aside, Ashutosh, how does the agency recover from something like this? Vikas Singh, for example, believed this was a setback, although he went into some of the merits of the case. I don't want to do that and prejudge the situation.
Okay, see, first of all, this is an interim bail and it has been granted not on the entire merits of the case, that we have to understand. It has been given provisionally for 21 days. So unless and until he is, his bail is confirmed by the original bail petition which is pending, then only it can be continued. Otherwise, he has to surrender by 2nd June. Now, we have to understand the legal part first. So I just want to, highlight this because I think the detailed order will be passed by the Supreme Court and then we will come to know about it. But just as understanding about law, Section 62, if you see, of the Representation of People's Act, that says that the voting rights are not a fundamental right and that can be taken away if anybody is taken into the custody by the investigating agency. But now if you see Section 8 of the same, the Representation of People's Act, it says that a person has the right to be elected, to contest elections, unless and until that person is proven guilty and convicted by any court.
But Arvind Kejriwal is not fighting these elections. He's not a candidate. He's
All
only
right.
he's only asking for campaigning for others, for his party.
Yes, so considering him to be a leader of the national party and to support his party, this a petition has been approved and he has been granted interim bail at the moment. But as I said, the Supreme Court has clearly mentioned that it will not be any sort of comment on the merit of the case, and it will not have any impact on the appeals, whatever Mr. Kejriwal has filed before the concerned courts.
Can I come in, Ashutosh? I just want to read out what the Supreme Court said while denying bail to Jagan Mohan Reddy in 2013. He is also a political person, and he had accused both the Congress and the TDP of hatching a conspiracy to keep him behind bars for a long time to prevent him from interacting with the public ahead of 2014 Assembly and Lok Sabha elections. Very similar conditions. Now, in that case, the Supreme Court said economic offences constitute a class apart and need to be visited with a different approach. An economic offence of having deep-rooted conspiracies and involving huge loss of public funds needs to be viewed seriously and considered as grave offence, affecting the economy of the country as a whole and thereby posing serious threat to financial health. So, how are we to look at this? How are we to look at this? How is it that one political person gets relief in very similar conditions but the other doesn't?
See, every case is unique. Now, if you see Mr. Kejriwal's case, what Supreme Court considered here is that 9 summonses were issued and the case was registered in August 2022, if we see the ECIR. So now the arrest has taken place in March 2024, that is almost 1.5 years later. So that I think he got advantage. And see, this is, as I'm saying again and again, that this is
once again, this is very interesting. And I want Charu to come in here because, the BJP's contention has been, look, you were given 9 opportunities to present yourself. You did not. ED's been saying this too. So you are to blame now. If the sword has fallen on your head, and whether it happens to be during or just ahead of elections is not a problem. But the court, in fact, viewed it differently. The court said when 9 summons were issued, he was out for 1.5 years after FIR or ECIR. What heavens will fall if he's out for 21 more days, Charu? Your entire case against Kejriwal not presenting himself has been almost busted by the Supreme Court.
Shivani, see, we are all entitled to our views and we are very respectful of every single decision, even an interim one taken by the Honorable Courts, and I don't want to comment on that. However, as a lawyer, I do believe that it sets a very difficult precedent in law. When you have someone who's not contesting an election, wanting to be out on bail, so he can campaign for his political party. And like I said, that's only my personal view of it, and I'm nobody to criticize our Honorable, Chief Justice or the judges who were hearing the matter, and I don't want to comment on that. That being said, I think we need to remember that the Supreme Court has categorically talked about 2 things, 3 things. One, he has to go back to jail. 2, he cannot take any administrative decisions. And 3, they are not commenting on the merits of the matter at all. So those who are rejoicing today, it is a very, if I can say, it's not a time for rejoicing.
Yeah, honestly. Too early maybe to rejoice. The last has not been heard on this case. But Siddharth, you wanted to come in very quickly. Then I have a question for you as well. 30 seconds.
Yeah, the simple question when you said the sword has fallen, why has the sword fallen, is that there is an ED case against Mr. Hemant Biswa Sharma. But the BJP, just because it is not prosecuting him and not put him in jail, if you say that he can be a chief minister, but just because I will put somebody in jail and that is why I can snatch away his fundamental rights, I think that's what the Supreme Court has said.
The Supreme Court has not said that. No, Siddharth, please don't quote the Supreme Court.
I'll come to that.
No, 1 second. Don't attribute your view to the Supreme Court.
No, I am attributing my own views and I think I am free to attribute my views.
You say it as your view. Don't say the Supreme Court has said it, please.
No, I can say, in your show, I can say whatever I want. You will have to either show it or...
No, I'm sorry. You cannot say whatever you want. It doesn't work like that.
Don't call me to your show.
No, please don't attribute it to the Supreme Court. You are free to make your political arguments, Siddharth. I don't want to do this repeatedly.
I am here to put forth my views.
Yes, put forth your view. Do not superimpose it to the Supreme Court.
No, it is for the viewers to decide whether my views are right or not.
No, please, no, Siddharth, one second, just lower his fader. Siddharth, I have said this to you before and I am sorry, I'm compelled to say this to you again. 1 second, just calm down and listen to me. I'm going to give you time, just calm down and listen to me.
Yeah.
Say what you want to say as your view. Do not say the Supreme Court has said it, that's all. As my duty, I have to point out what the court has or has not said, please.
I again repeat when you said that the sword has fallen on the BJP itself because of its own doing, that is exactly what the Supreme Court today has said. What Supreme Court has essentially said is that you cannot have a law in which you have a case against somebody and just because you are not prosecuting him, you can leave him, and because you put somebody in jail, you snatch away his fundamental rights. Essentially what has happened is that the entire BJP ecosystem has been saying that Modi ji और ED जिसको भी जेल में डाल दे वो सुप्रीम है. आज सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि सुप्रीम आप नहीं हैं, आप जिसको मन में आए जेल में डाल दीजिए और उसका फंडामेंटल राइट स्नैच कर लीजिए, ये ठीक नहीं है.
Okay, can I just come in? No, I have a question for you. I have a question for you. 1 second. Let me first again reiterate, those are not the words of the Supreme Court. I have played out what the Supreme Court has said while considering and granting bail to Arvind Kejriwal. Let's repeat those graphics on air, and that is that. But my question to Siddharth is this. Your contention of being an Aam Aadmi Party, fighting against the BJP, taking it on the chin, wouldn't that narrative also take a beating when effectively Arvind Kejriwal gets VIP treatment as a sitting chief minister to come out and campaign alone?
The answer is very simple. This is one of the first cases in India in which Arvind Kejriwal never applied for bail, yet today Supreme Court gave him freedom. That essentially says that the entire narrative, the entire liquor policy case is a fake one, and that is why the Supreme Court has seen through it. And if you are showing the right graphics, no, you should also say that in this same case today, the Supreme Court is also saying that the final arguments regarding this case where Arvind Kejriwal has challenged his illegal detention is going to be heard in the same week.
Yes, I know. I said that at the beginning of the show. Thank you very much. I'm very aware of it.
The case is already on. So
yeah, the case are on. That precisely my point. That case is on. The merits of the case have not been decided. The merits of the case have not been decided. Let's not attribute political views or narrative to the Supreme Court. We have to be very careful. Let me give Javed Ansari 15 seconds more. Arvind Kejriwal, as that fighter against the BJP, will this give... You know, he can't comment on the case, he can't comment on his role, he cannot function as the chief minister, but as a campaigner alone, how effective do you think he can be?
Like I said earlier, it will be pretty effective. He is a pretty effective speaker and he knows how to play the victim card, and he will play this. The Aam Aadmi Party, especially in Delhi, has the organizational bandwidth to try and milk this. And anybody who's seen as being victimized by the state, the public generally seems. I'll give you an example. Today, my maid, I was watching TV in the morning and she just stopped and she tells me, you know, the reason why he's in jail, that's because he used to give us free medicines and free bijli and free pani and all that. So with his court support group, this will go down very well, and he'll play that victim card.
Okay, Charu Pragya, 15 seconds. Last final 15 seconds.
Yeah, I don't think Siddharth understands basic law. You know, his whole pretense that the Supreme Court realized the case was fake, etc., falls flat on one point alone, that Arvind Kejriwal is required to surrender 21 days later. Again, Siddharth speaking over me, I don't understand what
the statement refers to your Pradhanji, not to me.
I really don't understand what is your problem. We are capable of speaking one after the other. You don't have to speak over me. I am trying to explain to you, and I'm explaining to you like I would to a kindergartner. Like, that is the level of understanding I'm assuming you have currently. Because if the Supreme Court thought Arvind Kejriwal was absolutely innocent or whatever is it that you're insinuating here, the fact is he wouldn't be asked to surrender strictly exactly 21 days later. And that is, Shivani, what we all need to remember.
Okay. In the interim though, we have to wait and see what happens on the larger case. the larger case of Arvind Kejriwal challenging his arrest in the first place. Because if there was to be any relief, I don't want to prejudge it, in that matter, that certainly has greater political significance than even an interim bail being granted for election campaigning alone. I do thank our guests for joining us. Time for us to slip into a very short break, but coming up on the other side, we'll get you more election campaign heat from Maharashtra this time around. Remember, from Nakli Santan to Aurangzeb, barbs are flying thick and fast. Why? And will they backfire? That's coming up on the other side.